Well, I said it was worth sticking around till the end, so if you're still watching, well done guys. I have got another fish in the net there, literally about 15 minutes to go of the session. My right hand rod's ripped off and we've got a beautiful scaly one to show you, so I'll get this fish out now and then I really must be getting home.
Living on the Isle of Wight has always felt like a limiting factor when it comes to trying to find decent venues to fish. So when I heard Cumley Lakes, which is close to home, had opened a new lake, I jumped at the chance to visit with my fishing mate Jamie. We had the lake to ourselves, which is always nice, but can also present its own challenges, as you will see over the course of the next 72 hours.
Right, well, welcome to another video, and it's quite an exciting one, this one, because I'm actually fishing a new lake. So I'm on the Isle of Wight where I actually live, and we're at Cumley Lakes, but they've actually opened a new lake for exclusive booking down here. So I've fished here a couple of times before. You might have seen the videos last year on the lower lake down there. So there used to be the lower lake and the main lake, and this was like a bit of a stock lake, I think. But now they've opened it up. It's called Lake 3, the upper lake, and it's an absolutely stunning little place, about 2.5 acres. Apparently there's 65 fish in here, up to 38 pound, and they've got 1130s in here as well. So for a small water, it's got some mega fish to go at, and there's some really scaly ones, and you know, nice mixture of sizes and strains and stuff like that. So quite excited. We've got 3 days ahead of us, and we've just got here and got the rods out. It's a really, really sunny day. You might notice I've got the windows behind me open on the SLR bivvy to get a bit of airflow through, because it's absolutely scorching hot. It's kind of 22, 23 degrees. Apparently the fish have spawned about 2 weeks ago, so we're not worried about that. And yeah, like I say, 3 nights, so there's a good chance of a fish or two if we're lucky. I'll show you obviously throughout the course of the session the tactics, the rigs and the bait that I'm using, and probably talk you through the spots as well, so you get an idea of kind of how I'm fishing. Hopefully it'll be successful, and if you come here you might be able to kind of replicate it. But for now I'm just going to be kind of keeping an eye on the water. Got the rods out, as I said, and we're sort of coming into the late afternoon, evening time. So I'm with my mate Jamie. We're going to have a barbecue tonight and a few beers, and hopefully we'll have a few fish as well and make a good trip of it.
Going into the first night full of anticipation and confidence, I felt like we'd done everything right, and due to the fish being fairly new and unpressured, we should catch quite quickly. It just shows you that carp fishing isn't always how you think it will be, which I guess is what keeps us coming back for more.
So there's good news and bad news this morning. The good news is that I've had a really good night's sleep, and I really needed that because I was away in Devon with Frank. You might have seen that video, it should be live now on the Prologic channel, and we had an awesome session, so go check that out if you haven't seen it. But the bad news obviously is, because I've had a good night's sleep, there's been no fish caught, and I'm quite surprised, if I'm honest with you, because when we got here we had a walk around, and on the far side there I've got a bit of a bay with some reeds in it, and we saw quite a lot of fish in there milling around, so it was an obvious choice to go in this swim. And I put my rods over towards the reeds where there were sort of gaps in the reeds where I'd seen fish, you know, and I didn't use a lot of bait, just a little patch. I'll talk to you a bit more about the tactics later on, but you know, I felt fairly confident. I'd sort of seen the fish, put the rods where I'd seen them, and just fished for a bite, and nothing's happened, surprisingly. So yeah, I'm scratching my head a little bit, because you can't do much more than that, you know, once you've found them, and you sort of use tactics you're confident in, you kind of expect to catch something, and it didn't happen. Now, there was quite a few fish showing as it was getting dark, sort of 9:30, 9:45 last night. There was a lot of fish showing kind of in a line out there off the reeds, so I'm going to investigate that area a little bit more today once we're sort of past bite time. I'll bring the rods in and probably flick a lead about and see if there's anything on the bottom there that kind of seems like a good spot, and perhaps have a rod there tonight in that area where the fish was showing, and sort of keep working the swim a bit and trying to suss out where I'm going to get a bite from, because it might be that that bay over there is just where the fish are hanging out and not really feeding in the daytime when it's hot, and then they might sort of come out to feed. So, you know, where the fish were showing could have been where they were feeding last night. So yeah, I'm going to have to work a little bit, I think, to get a bite on this session. I thought it was going to be fairly easy because we'd seen the fish, but yeah, I think it might be a case of putting a bit of effort in today and hopefully working something out so that we can get something in the next 48 hours that we've got left of this session. So yeah, I'm going to have some breakfast now and leave the rods out until probably just before lunchtime, I think, when I think, you know, bite time will be kind of over, and then work out what I'm going to do for the rest of the session. So I'll probably show you my rigs and everything when I bring them in, and then yeah, we'll keep you posted if anything happens. Right, so we've had a bit of a change of plan this morning. I wound in and went and used the facilities and everything, and then had a bit of a walk around the back of the lake. And where the fish were yesterday, there's just nothing to be seen at all. And I've kind of lost confidence in those spots a little bit. When I wound in, the rigs were fine and everything. One of them, the one on the point, had a bit of weed and stuff on it. So I'm going to move away from that spot because I'm not seeing fish in that area, and obviously didn't catch anything. And where I was seeing the fish show in the line last night, kind of maybe 3/4 of the way across, I chucked a lead around just to feel what was out there. And actually it's a really nice hard bottom there, maybe gravel, maybe just sort of hard clay, but really nice sort of tappy sort of bottom. So I've clipped that up on my marker rod. I'm going to wrap one of my rods out to that distance now and get a rig out there and leave it, you know, for tonight and everything. So that's probably going to be just a little wafter over a little bit of pellet. The fish are fed on pellet in here, so it makes sense to use a similar thing to what they're being fed. And a little wafter is quite inconspicuous, you know, not a pop-up sort of blatant, just something that's in amongst all that pellet that they'll be sucking in. So hopefully if they turn back on that spot tonight where they were showing last night, we might have a good chance of a take. It's funny, this time of year you kind of think you've got to be fishing in the reeds and right up to margins and stuff, but if the fish are showing in open water and you can find a spot out there, you might as well get a rig where the fish are rather than hoping they've read the rule book and doing what you expect them to do. So I'm going to have definitely one rod on that spot tonight. I'm going to point you where my spots are a little bit later on, but I'll get my rods out and get sorted first. But yeah, I'm going to have one rod on that open water spot. One's going to be over to the reeds where I was, because if the fish turn up today in this bright sunshine, it might be worth having one on the reeds just in case they want to pick up a bit of bait while they're sort of milling around the reeds. And then my other one is going to go in the right-hand corner opposite me where we saw a couple of shows on the reed line there. It's a little bit deeper water there. And I've just fired maybe 30 or so boilies along that reed line. And I'm just going to fish a little pop-up in amongst them because I don't know what the bottom's like out there. I don't want to crash a lead in and kind of spook the fish if they're in the reeds. So I'm just going to use a pop-up just so I make sure it's presented over whatever the bottom is. And I've dotted a spread of boilies so that the fish are moving about a bit more and hopefully moving from bait to bait. And I've got more chance of hooking them on a pop-up like that. So that's my plan for my 3 rods. I'm just going to show you my rigs now, and then I'm going to get the rods out, and that'll be it. Sort of a bit of a waiting game again. So kind of a bit of a reset because nothing happened the first 24 hours. And we're going to sort of see if we can make something happen now. So yeah, my first rig that I'm going to show you it's a kind of a new rig that I've started using recently. I'll show you some close-ups as well, but basically it's a bit of a D rig, but just tied with coated braid. Then I've got a bit near the hook that's stripped back so it can turn. I've been using the Amnesia D rig for a couple of years now and really liking that, but the one thing that bothered me was that there was no flexibility in the hook link, so if the fish picks it up from the kind of lead end of the rig, if you like, it can't turn into its mouth very well. And although I've caught a lot of fish on that, you know, there's no harm in trying different things to see if you can get better hook holds and catch more fish. At the end of the day, that's what we're trying to do, isn't it? So this rig is basically just coated braid. You tie it like a D rig, but you have a bit of shrink tube on the shank just to kind of hold the D in place. And then you put some shrink tube on the eye of the hook as well, just for a kicker. And then strip a little bit back near the end of the shrink tube to give it that flexibility. And a couple of blobs of putty just to help pin it down and help drop the hook in the fish's mouth. I've got a little Vitamino bottom bait tipped with half a pop-up there just so it acts as a bit of a wafter and hopefully kind of lifts up into their mouth a little bit easier. And that's my sort of bottom bait wafter type rig. But then my pop-up rig is going to be this one here, which is a withy pool rig. If you've watched any of my videos before, you know that I like using a withy pool rig. I've had loads of fish on this, including all my PBs and everything, so it's a rig that I'm really confident in. Got a little pink pop-up there just to hopefully catch their eye if they're milling around in the reeds over there. And I'm going to be fishing that over a spread of boilies, like I say. So yeah, I'll get these out now, and only time will tell whether I've got it right or not. And then a little bit later on, I'll talk you through my spots. So I'll talk you through my tactics a little while ago, and then I started making my breakfast after I got the rods out. And the middle rod has gone within about 20 minutes of putting them out. So I'm so glad I had a little change and moved one of my spots to where they were showing last night because it's paid off. I've had this stunning 18-pound 2, real lovely looking scaly linear, beautiful fish. And I imagine in a few years' time that's going to be a real prize for someone. But I'm obviously over the moon to catch it at that weight as well. But yeah, the future's bright for this fishery. So yeah, I'm going to get some pictures and get it back, and then hopefully there's time for a few more either today or through the night, so we'll keep you posted. But yeah, happy days, off the mark. First time on the venue, and after 24 hours of nothing, I just changed things up a little bit and caught one straight away. So hopefully we can build on that now and catch a few more.
Getting one under your belt always takes the pressure off, and at this point I felt like I had the place sussed. The fish definitely had other ideas.
Right, so we're just coming into the evening now on the second day, and I'm really happy that I had that lovely scaly one earlier on, but nothing's happened since then. So I've had a bit of a change up. The rod that I was fishing over to the reeds over there has been really quiet, and I've not really seen the reeds knocking or signs of fish over there. So I've actually brought that one out onto the spot sort of next to where I caught the fish earlier. So I've got 2 rods now on that area. And then my other rod's in the bay to my right on the reed line, because we saw quite a few fish show their last night, and actually one's just showed there earlier on, about sort of 10 minutes ago, so that's looking promising. Where I put the rod, the fish sort of showed about 3 foot to the right of the spot, so yeah, hopefully that fish will drop down as the sun's going down and have a little feed. It's been a really hot day today. You know, we've been sort of sheltering in the sort of bivvies really. The sun's kind of gone behind, so you can get a bit of shade sitting in the front of the bivvy, and it's not been too bad, but actually out in the sun it's been really hot, and I think the fish have just been cruising around on the top really. You're not allowed zigs in here, so obviously that would be a good option if you were allowed to, but I think we've just got to wait for the temperature to drop and the light to go, and hopefully the fish will start moving out into open water and looking for a bit of food. But in a minute I'll turn the camera around and just show you roughly where I'm fishing, so you get a bit of an idea of what we're doing. Right guys, so we're looking out from a bivvy to the water that I'm fishing in swim 4 here at Coomley Lake 3, and I think, as I said, when I got here we kind of had a walk around the back of the lake around here, and we'd seen fish all in these reeds here, and there's like a bay. They were kind of milling around in here, so I started off with one rod on the end of these reeds just there where it's a bit more sparsely reedy, and another one here where the reeds kind of go in a little bit, and then my last rod was on the end of this point where I figured the fish would come along the margin. I might intercept them, and before they went into there, you know, and then, you know, I thought all that area was going to be good really for a bite, but I think the fish were kind of just sitting there, not really feeding in the warmer weather. You know, they were just kind of hanging on the surface and not dropping down. So rather than just sit on my hands and kind of hope that something was going to happen, I decided to try and make something happen. And where I'd seen fish showing last night was from the point of these reeds in a bit of a line along, and then going off to behind the island over that way. So I chucked a bare lead out there just to see what was out there, and actually I was pleasantly surprised to find a nice sort of gravelly bar there. So I sorted my rods out again and put them out, and put my one rod just kind of where that hole in the trees is, just sort of here in the open water on that gravelly bit. And it was only about 20 minutes and that rod went off, so I was really pleased that I did that. And then I left one over here for the daytime, and I put another one on these reeds here because I'd seen a few fish show right up to the reeds, you know, and then the reeds have been knocking there as well, so the fish have obviously been getting in there. So I put one rod there, one here and one over there for the day. But then I figured if I've already had a bite on this spot, I might as well bring the rod out of the reeds that's not producing and put it next to it, so it's about there, on the same distance, just a little bit to the left. So I've now got 2 rods over there, and then my 3rd rod is still on these reeds, where there's a little sparse area. I think it's about there. There's a bit where it's a bit less densely reedy, so the fish can come in and out. It's a bit of an entrance into that reedy area, and I've seen the reeds knocking, and I've just seen a fish show over there, so it's looking good on that one. And then it was maybe about 8:30, 9 o'clock when we started seeing fish show all along this line. So my 2 rods there, I'm quite confident that if the fish turn up again, I've got a good chance of a bite, because you know, I've already had a bite off that spot, and it is nice and clear and gravelly there. So yeah, that's my spots, and I'm feeling quite confident going into this evening, because, you know, I've already caught off that spot and the fish were there last night, so hopefully they'll turn up again and we'll have a few more, because it's been a bit slow so far. You know, I've only got 1 fish to show for my sort of maybe 30 hours of fishing, and I was quite surprised because of the amount of fish we saw when we got here. I thought I would have had a few more, but I think the weather's been against us. We've had really high pressure and hot in the day and then quite cold at night, so it's never good conditions for catching carp. But you know, it's all to play for. We're not even halfway through the session yet, so we'll have to wait and see what happens. And yeah, I'll keep you updated obviously if we catch anything this evening or tonight, and then in the morning I'll give you a bit of an update, and I'll perhaps talk a little bit more about tactics, because I've kind of changed things around bait wise and hook bait wise, just thinking about what's going on in the lake, and making the changes has paid off today. So I'll talk you through that a bit more tomorrow, but for now I think it's time for a bit of food and yeah, relaxing and seeing what the night brings. Well, good morning guys, or should I say good afternoon. It's actually just after lunchtime on the second day now. And although we had a beautiful morning this morning with mist rising off the lake, I didn't manage to catch any more fish. My mate Jamie that I'm with did have a beautiful 21 pounder, so I'll show you a picture of that. But for me, it's gone really quiet. The fish have stopped showing in the area, and I've decided that I'm definitely going to move down the other end. The problem with a lake like this is, you know, if you both fish together at one end, you're definitely going to push the fish all up the other end. So I figured if I go down there, we've both got a better chance really, because I might push the fish back down to Jamie, and also if the fish are up there, you know, I'm obviously closer to them and got a better chance of catching them. So I've just had my lunch and I'm going to start the laborious process of moving everything up the other end. And once I've done that, I'll kind of talk you through my new spots in the new swim and everything. So yeah, stay tuned guys, but I've got a busy day ahead of me sorting everything out. And hopefully tonight we can catch a few more, because it's been really quiet and quite hard work because of the high pressure and hot temperatures, and then it's been really cold at night as well, so it's put the fish off the feed a little bit. But I'm hoping that if I'm at least near to where they are, I've got a good chance of maybe salvaging it and catching a couple more tonight. So I'll get on with that now, and I'll catch up to you in the new swim. Right, I'm absolutely sweating out. It's absolutely boiling today. It must be 23 degrees. But I finally got all my gear moved into the new swim up the other end of the lake, and I've just kind of put my bivvy up and dumped everything inside it just to kind of get set up really. And I'm kind of shading in here because it's so hot. I feel like I'm getting burnt and stuff. But what I did was I went around the far side with my marker float rod, and I just plopped along the margin there just to see if I can find any clearer areas. And I've actually found some nice hard spots along that margin, and I think the owner feeds the fish along that margin as well with pellets and stuff. So, you know, anywhere that's sort of harder, it might be where he feeds regularly, and it's cleared the bottom because there is quite a bit of weed in this lake. But I found some areas with no weed, so I'm quite confident. And I haven't got the rods out yet because it's still really, really hot, and the fish are just cruising up and down that margin over there. I've seen quite a few, so I'm fairly confident that they're in the area. So yeah, I've got about 15 hours to turn this session around, guys. But now that I'm in the new swim, I feel a lot more confident. You know, I've only had that one fish so far up the other end, and the fish were all there when we got here, so that's why we went there. But they've very quickly moved because we've had a couple of fish now. And, you know, obviously being together, you're kind of talking and making a bit of noise. And I think the fish, they've pushed up this way, and they're on the back of a northeasterly wind as well, and just sheltering over the far side on that margin. So I'll get the rods out probably late afternoon, early evening. No point putting them out yet because the fish are just cruising and not really feeding. But I'll probably, you know, wait until it looks right and the light starts dipping. I'll get the rods out for the last night, and hopefully we can have a few fish and turn the session around. Right, here we are then. It's finally cooling off after a really scorching day. And what a day it's been for me, really. I was up at 4 because Jamie got a few beeps on one of his rods and it woke me up, and then he decided to redo it, and then he actually caught a fish a little while after that. So we took some pictures and things, and didn't really get back to sleep after that. So I've been up since about 4 o'clock-ish, and you know, I spent most of the day kind of deciding what to do and walking around and looking for fish, and then finally moving swims because I'd seen a lot of fish on the far margin from this swim, which is swim 2, I think. It's kind of double swims on this lake, so you've got 1 and 2 here and 3 and 4 at the other end. So it's nice for a social if you want to come with one of your mates or something like that, like I have on this session. But yeah, me and Jamie have gone our separate ways now, and we're at opposite ends of the lake. So he's down in swim 3, and I've chosen to come up into 1 and 2 because, you know, you can't ignore the fact that I've not had anything for a good 24 hours, and the fish are sort of up here. So it makes sense to fish opposite ends of the lake really for the last night. Hopefully I can push some fish back down towards Jamie and have a few myself in the process. So I've got the rods out now and it's cool enough, so it's nice, you know, it's been such a hot day. It's nice to kind of finally be given a break from that heat. I've had my dinner, rods are out and everything's good in the world again, you know, after a bit of a busy and stressful day. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to tonight and you know, seeing what happens, and hopefully there'll be a few fish. When I walk around the far side, I just put a little bit of bait in on the spots before I sort of sent the rods out there, just to kind of you know, spook the fish off slightly off the bait, and hopefully they'd sort of come back knowing that that's there. And when I was round there putting the bait out, I actually saw quite a few fish, and I had to kind of be quite careful and pick my moment really when I was sort of throwing the bait. I didn't want to kind of drop it right on their heads and stuff. And I did actually see a fish that I believe is the biggest common in the lake. They've recently stocked this kind of end of last year, so the owner knows exactly what's in here, and he says there's 65 fish. And I was asking about commons because I'd really like to catch a 40-pound common one day. My biggest is only 36. And he said there's one in here that went in at over 30 pounds, and all the rest are kind of 20s really. And I believe I saw that fish today, so it'd be nice to catch a big common. But whatever comes along, I'll be absolutely happy if we get lucky enough to catch something. So yeah, it's the last night, and it's all to play for now. You know, I've got fish in front of me, and I've got this end of the lake to myself, so I've got quite a bit of water to play with, so I can keep an eye on it and see any fish moving and hopefully kind of react to it. But yeah, it's going to be hopefully a little bit better than up the other end where it had just gone dead for me. So yeah, we'll see how things pan out, guys. Hopefully we can pull out a couple more fish before we go tomorrow, and it could end up being a really good session if the effort that I've put in today actually pays off. So in a second, guys, I'll flip the camera around, just show you the swim, talk you through where I'm sort of fishing, so you get an idea of what's going on, and then yeah, we'll have to kind of see what the night brings. Right, so this is the view from my swim up the other end of the lake, and it's a stunning evening. You know, the sun's still on that far margin there, so hopefully that little bit of warmth will keep the fish over there. And all 3 rods are basically fished over to the far margin because everyone fishes from this side of the lake, so it makes sense to kind of fish over there where the fish kind of get pushed over to. And I've seen a lot of them, like I say, patrolling up and down, so that's where I've gone. So basically I walked around, and all the gaps in between the bushes and things, I just kind of dropped the marker rod out from the far side and kind of felt what it was like over there. And so I found kind of 3 spots which I'm happy with, which are nice and clear, no weed or anything, and a little bit sort of more gravelly rather than just smooth silt, because I figured that's where maybe the pellets that the owner feeds are going, and it's been sort of stripped back to the gravel again. So the first one is a left-hand rod going over to these reeds here, and just in front of the reeds there's a nice spot around about there. And then my middle rod is going off over, I think it's this bush here, just to the right hand side. There was a nice little spot, and that one is on a little pop-up because there was a little bit of weed on a couple of the casts I did over there. A lot of it was quite clear, but then I got kind of a little bit of weed, so I thought I'll put a pop-up out there. And actually Jamie caught his fish on a pop-up, so you know, I've no doubt that pop-ups work, and actually it just gives me confidence that I'm presented properly on that spot. And then the last one is going off down to the right a little bit, towards the start of those kind of irises over there. I don't know if you can see, but we've got a line of irises here, and it's just about there where they sort of start, and the fish were coming up and down these margins, and here is a bit of a sort of a glowing clear spot that you can see from the bank. So again, that might be where the pellets get fed, and the fish have kind of cleared it off, so it makes sense to fish there. If the fish are used to feeding there and getting kind of free food there, they won't be expecting my rig to be sat out there. So yeah, similar tactics to what I was fishing before really, you know, a pop-up on one rod and then wafters on two. And instead of what I was originally doing, I never actually ended up telling you about it, but I was using a mix of kind of hemp and corn and boilie crumb. But then we sort of struggled for the first night and morning, and then I thought, well, if they're being fed pellets, why not just give them pellets? So I tried that and then had a fish within about 20 minutes. So then I switched all the rods to pellets, and so did Jamie, and he's caught a fish since then as well. So it's obvious that the pellets are working. So got pellets over all the rods, 2 on little wafters and 1 on a pop-up, and that's what I've done. Not loads of bait because I've only got 1 night left. I'm just trying to nick a bite, and the fish are already patrolling over there, so I don't need to feed them really, I just need to catch them.
I was definitely on them, but would they feel like feeding? Only time would tell.
Well, a quiet night last night, and then at 5 o'clock the rod is ripped off, and as you can see down there in the net we've got a fish. It looks to be about 20 pounds, maybe just over, a common as well, which is nice, makes a change from mirrors. And the move has paid off, so I'm really pleased about that. I'm glad that I moved in the end. It was quite surprising that I didn't have anything through the night, but now it's just getting light, and my right rod absolutely screamed off. Went on a really long run, and it was quite an exciting battle really. So yeah, I'm gonna get this fish out and show you in a minute once I've weighed it. I'll let you know what it weighs and get it back, and then get the rod back out. So I've only got about 5 hours left of the session, and hopefully this early morning feeding period will give me at least 1 more fish before I go. There we go. Nice 20 pound common from Lake 3 at Coomley. Just caught over a little bed of pellet, the house pellet that they do here, and a little SS1 wafter from Pure Bait Concepts. So yeah, I made up with that. The move was worthwhile, and I've sort of saved the session, I think, with that, you know, and there's chance for another one yet. So let's get that rod back out, and hopefully in the last few hours we can get another one. Well, I said it was worth sticking around till the end, so if you're still watching, well done guys. I have got another fish in the net there, literally about 15 minutes to go of the session. My right hand rod's ripped off and we've got a beautiful scaly one to show you, so I'll get this fish out now and then I really must be getting home. Right, here we go guys. We've got really bright sunshine, so it's you know, it's not very easy to show you the fish and make it look nice, but it's an absolute beauty, fully scaled, just a shade under 20 pound. And I'm absolutely made up because that's 2 fish since I moved now, so I feel like it was worth it. And there you go, what a way to end the session, 15 minutes from the end, with the prettiest one of the session and probably the prettiest fish I've caught all year really. Absolutely gorgeous, fully scaled. It's got a couple of marks from their recent spawning, so I'll treat those with some propolis before I put it back, but its mouth was absolutely perfect on it. Good chance it's never been caught before, so yeah, it's a privilege to see this one on the bank. So yeah, I'll get some pictures, get it back and get on the road.